Ever feel like you're just swimming in information, but you're not really grabbing the stuff that actually matters?
Yeah, like you want the real insights without, reading a million pages.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing today. We're going deep on how truly enduring brands get built, the ones that really stick.
hmm And we're drawing heavily from Winston Trim's The Unseen Architecture of Success.
Mhm.
We've kind of boiled it down to the core ideas, the stuff that goes way beyond just like a cool logo.
Right. So what's in it for you listening? Well, you'll walk away with a much clearer picture of brand building, the fundamentals, and some genuinely useful marketing ideas.
Think of it as getting the cheat codes for understanding brand success. We'll unpack Trim's big ideas, maybe connect some dots you hadn't seen before.
Okay, let's dive in. When we talk about a brand, what are we really talking about? Because, yeah, it's definitely not just the logo or a jingle.
No, and Trim really pushes back against that surface level view right away. He says, a brand, fundamentally, it's a promise.
A promise.
Yeah. It's the sum total of every single interaction someone has with you, with your product, with your service.
So all the touch points.
All of them. And it's the emotion it evokes, the story it tells within their life. There was this study, I think it found something like over 70% of people say trusting a brand is like a major factor in buying.
Wow. That high.
Yeah. And that trust, it comes from promises being kept
Yeah.
consistently.
That makes sense. It reframes it completely. So it's less about just what you sell and more about the expectation you set and whether you deliver.
Right. And in today's world, with so many choices, that reliability, that consistency, it's a massive differentiator.
Huge.
Absolutely. Trim argues pretty strongly that if you don't have a strong brand, you're basically just selling a commodity.
Meaning you're just like everyone else.
Exactly. And then it just becomes about price.
Yeah.
The race to the bottom, which, let's be honest, nobody really wins that.
Right.
But a brand that resonates,
Yeah.
it elevates things. It creates this value that goes beyond just the features. It builds loyalty that, well, price cuts just can't buy.
Trim uses that coffee example, right? Like you can get generic beans anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
but choosing a specific coffee brand,
Mm.
maybe you're buying into their sustainable sourcing or the way they roast or just the vibe of their cafes.
Precisely. The coffee itself might be, broadly similar, but the experience around the brand is totally different. It's like this invisible layer of value.
And that layer isn't accidental.
Oh, definitely not.
Mhm.
According to Trim, it's the result of very deliberate strategy, which, leads us right into the next big question.
Which is how you actually build and communicate that promise, that value. How do you make it stick? Trim talks about this strategic imperative, right?
Mm-hmm.
A really thought out marketing plan.
Yeah, and he's clear. It's not just, let's run some ads. It's got to be a cohesive, integrated strategy, thinking bigger. It's about nailing down your unique value, figuring out how to connect with the right people, and then nurturing those relationships.
He uses that analogy, the finely tuned orchestra.
That's the one. Every piece,
Yeah.
the message, the channels you use, the timing, it all needs to work together. Harmony.
And a key part of that harmony, he points out, is repetition, which sounds simple, maybe even annoying, but it's powerful.
It really is. And it's not about just like hammering people over the head.
Right.
It's about consistency.
Mm.
Consistent message, consistent look and feel, consistent experience. Think about those brands that just feel present,
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah, they just pop into your head.
That's the strategic reinforcement Trim talks about. It builds familiarity, recognition, recall, and eventually trust. There's a whole psychology to it. The more familiar something feels, the safer, the more trustworthy it seems.
So our brains are kind of wired for that.
Pretty much. Trim notes that consistent exposure, especially if the experiences are positive, it literally builds pathways in the brain. Your brand just becomes easier to access mentally. It's top of mind.
Mental availability. Got it. Okay, so consistent brand building over time is vital. But then Trim makes this really important distinction. Brand marketing versus direct marketing. What's the key difference there?
Okay, so direct marketing, in Trim's view, is all about the immediate hit, the quick, measurable action.
Like coupons, flash sales.
Exactly. Those buy now buttons, limited time offers, success is measured right away.
Okay.
Clicks, signups, sales. You can usually track the ROI pretty clearly.
Which is attractive, especially if you're just starting out, right? You want to see results fast.
Totally. That quick feedback loop is appealing.
Yeah.
But, Trim points out, its focus is usually quite narrow.
How so?
It's often just about getting that one transaction. It's not really designed to build a long-term relationship or shape how people feel about your brand overall. It's the short game.
Okay. And brand marketing is the long game.
That's the idea. Brand marketing focuses on bigger, often less tangible goals. Building awareness across the board, shaping your reputation, creating those emotional ties with people, carving out your unique space in the market.
So it's about creating a generally positive feeling, making people prefer you even without a special offer.
Precisely. You're building up that reservoir of goodwill. So when they do need what you offer, you're the natural choice.
Apple's a good example he uses. Their ads aren't usually screaming sale.
Right. They sell the lifestyle, the creativity, the seamlessness. It's aspirational. It's about belonging to something.
But measuring that seems tricky. How do you put a number on brand affinity?
Yeah, that's the challenge. Trim acknowledges it's not as straightforward as counting clicks. You look at things like brand perception, maybe shifts in sentiment over time. It's fuzzier.
And maybe why some businesses lean towards the easily measured direct stuff first.
Could be. But Trim is pretty emphatic about which approach builds real, lasting value.
He comes down firmly on the side of brand marketing for the long haul.
He does. His argument is basically direct marketing can give you those quick wins, sure. But brand marketing builds the foundation. It creates the audience, the positive feeling that makes your direct efforts actually work better later on.
Ah, okay, so one supports the other.
Exactly. And brand marketing just gives you so much more room for storytelling, for deeper emotional connection.
He brings up that Nike campaign with Colin Kaepernick. That wasn't about selling shoes that week, was it?
Not directly, no.
Hmm.
Trim uses it as a really powerful case study in values-driven brand marketing. Nike took a stand.
A controversial one for sure.
Absolutely. It definitely
Right.
caused a stir. But Trim argues the long-term effect was it massively strengthened their brand identity for a core group of customers. It deepened that connection. It wasn't about a discount code. It was about aligning with beliefs.
It made them more than just shoes and apparel.
Yeah, it positioned them as part of a larger cultural conversation. That's brand building at a pretty profound level.
Which leads perfectly into understanding who you're trying to connect with. Trim really stresses looking beyond just demographics. Why isn't age, income, location enough?
Well, for ages, marketing kind of relied on that, right?
Yeah.
Age, gender, where you live, how much you earn. And look, that data gives you a starting point, a broad picture.
It's incomplete.
Very incomplete, according to Trim, because you can have two people who look identical on paper, demographically speaking.
Same age, same income, same city.
Right. But their values, their motivations, why they buy things could be worlds apart. One might be all about sustainability and minimalism, the other about luxury and status. Demographics don't tell you that.
So you need the psychographics.
Exactly. That's the deeper layer Trim talks about. Understanding people's beliefs, their values,
Yeah.
what they aspire to, what keeps them up at night, their lifestyle choices.
It's about understanding their internal world, their stories.
Yes. What narratives are they living? What challenges do they face? What are they striving for? When you tap into that, you can craft messages that actually resonate, like on an emotional level.
He uses that example of a brand for adventurers.
Yeah. They're not just targeting, say, 25 to 45-year-olds with a certain income. They're speaking to the desire for exploration, the love of the outdoors, the thrill of pushing limits.
They're selling a feeling, an identity.
That's it, not just gear.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But how do you actually find that psychographic stuff? Trim mentions a data-driven mission. What's involved there?
It means digging deeper than just surface numbers, really trying to get at the core motivations, the worldviews of your audience. And Trim has some practical advice here. Start with your true believers.
The early fans. The ones who just get it already.
Exactly. The people who are already enthusiastic, who already share your core values. Talk to them. Listen to them.
Really listen.
Deeply. Understand the language they use, what their real pain points are. That qualitative stuff, that's gold for refining your offering, your message.
And that connects to having a mission.
Big time. He emphasizes how important a mission-driven approach is becoming. People, especially now, want to connect with brands that stand for something more than just profit.
They want alignment.
Yeah. Your mission should be like your North Star. It guides everything.
He points to Warby Parker, right? Their mission wasn't just sell glasses.
No, it was, designer eyewear at a revolutionary price
Yeah.
while leading the way for socially conscious businesses. Something like that.
Right. Affordable, stylish, and doing good.
And that mission wasn't just words on a website. Trim highlights how it drove their pricing, their style, their whole buy a pair, give a pair thing. It was baked in.
Right.
And that resonated massively.
It feels authentic. So in this world where everyone's connected constantly online, the old ways of just shouting ads, they don't work so well anymore. Trim talks about moving beyond impressions. What's the shift?
Yeah, he's definitely right about that. Just paying for eyeballs for impressions, well, it's getting less effective and more expensive.
Hmm.
The real focus now, he argues, needs to be on building actual relationships.
Like real connections with customers.
Exactly. It means ongoing conversation, providing value even when they're not buying, being where they are, listening, responding, building trust over time. It's more like building a community.
Not just a list of buyers.
Right. And this is where content marketing comes in huge,
Yeah.
according to Trim. Useful articles, interesting videos, podcasts like this.
Things that help people or entertain them.
Yeah. Stuff that educates, inspires. It positions your brand as a helpful resource, a trusted voice, not just someone trying to sell them something all the time.
You're building goodwill, establishing authority by giving value first.
Precisely. Okay, now Trim also gets into something really fundamental, almost personal. The role of your values in all this.
Your own personal values as the leader or marketer.
Yeah. This is a really powerful point he makes. He argues that your deeply held beliefs, your principles, they're actually massive assets for your brand.
How?
Because when you genuinely infuse your brand with what you believe in, it creates authenticity.
Yeah.
And people crave authenticity, especially now. It cuts through all the marketing noise.
So it's about what you stand for personally driving the brand.
Exactly. And crucially, when your actions consistently match those stated values, that builds this incredibly strong, resilient kind of trust.
So the first step is actually figuring out what your core values are.
Right. Trim says, get clear on that. What are your non-negotiables? What drives you? What are you passionate about?
And then you have to actually live them through the business. It can't just be talk.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
He makes a very sharp distinction between genuinely integrating values and just, performing virtue. Like if you say sustainability is a core value,
It needs to show up in your supply chain, your packaging.
not just in an ad campaign with green trees.
Right.
When that alignment is real, Trim says it acts like a magnet for customers who share those values. They feel that connection.
And that consistency, that truthfulness, that's what builds loyalty long term.
Yeah, he argues that a brand that knows what it stands for and acts on it becomes reliable, predictable in a good way, a kind of anchor in a world that's always changing.
A beacon, he calls it.
And beyond just the business success, Trim also briefly touches on, like, the human side of it.
The journey itself.
Yeah, enjoying the process, even when it's hard. He says that passion is contagious. It inspires your team. It inspires your customers. And also having gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah, for the chance to build something meaningful. It fosters humility, the sense of responsibility.
That's a nice touch. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. If we boil down Trim's insights from this deep dive, a brand is fundamentally that promise built up over time through every interaction.
Right, and brand marketing, focusing on the long game, relationships, emotion, that's key for lasting success, way more than just short-term tactics.
And you've got to understand your audience deeply, not just their demographics, but their psychographics, their values, their hopes, their stories.
Having a clear mission, something beyond profit, really resonates today. And building real relationships, not just chasing impressions, is vital online.
And underpinning it all is authenticity, which comes from knowing your own core values and letting them genuinely guide the brand.
That's a pretty good summary. And for you listening, understanding these sort of hidden structures, this unseen architecture Trim talks about, it gives you a new lens, right?
Yeah, a new way to look at the brands you interact with every day, or even how you approach your own work, your own brand in the world.
So maybe, as you go about your day, just notice the brands that really connect with you. Ask yourself, what's the unspoken value there? What's the story they're telling that pulls you in?
And maybe even more interestingly, what are your core values? How clearly are they showing up and how you connect and contribute? It's definitely something to think about. Those deeper connections really do make all the difference.